Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Odd Topic Podcast. Woo! Joining me today is my co-host, Brett Beckerman.
As always.
And today, we're going to be talking about cryptids.
Yeah, it was bound to happen. It's coming.
Exactly. So, I mean, this is so we've been alluding to cryptids for a while. And pretty much most of our episodes, we give a little spicy hint that some cryptid episodes are to come and whatnot. I mean, it's not like we haven't really half spoken about cryptids already, like the Tokoloshi is kind of a cryptid. So this is the first episode in a series of sort of episodes that we'll maybe do once a week or kind of whenever we feel like it. But it's going to be called Cryptid Round-Up. Cryptid Round-Up!
Number 1.
And this is because there are a shitload of cryptids out there, and we don't just want to go over 2 cryptids or 3 cryptids and then say we've done cryptids, because I mean there's so much content out there to be made. So some of you may be asking yourselves, what is a cryptid? I'm glad that I asked that to myself, Brett. A cryptid.
Wow.
So a cryptid is basically it's a fancy way of saying make-believe monster. Kind of, but not make-believe, because there's sort of some substantiated claims about them. And it's not really, like a lot of things that are cryptids kind of started as cryptids and then became real life. Kind of like the coelacanth, as we mentioned last episode.
Yeah.
It's kind of an extinct relic / cryptid. Loch Ness Monster is a good example of a cryptid, although still unknown. People are related back to the what dinosaur? Is it the plesiosaur?
Yeah, plesiosaur.
So they can be kind of grounded in reality, but not always. Formal definition is an animal whose existence or survival is disputed or unsubstantiated. So yeah, again, Bigfoot, whatever. El Chupacabra, another quite a popular one. Anyway, so my cryptid for the day is probably one that a lot of you guys haven't heard about. It's not your common Bigfoot or your Yeti and that sort of thing. This one is called the Skinwalker. Skinwalker, super creepy name. I kind of stumbled upon this, let's say about 5 years ago. And kind of along the same time, I started hearing about Goatman and the Wendigo, which are kind of separate things. Wendigo and Skinwalker are kind of often sort of like the words are thrown between themselves as if it's the same thing, but it's really not. But yeah, let's just jump into that one. The Skinwalker has its roots in Native American, namely the Navajo culture, and is described as being an evil or harmful witch that can transform or possess other animals, including humans. So its most typical depiction is that of a large wolf, but not limited to that. So it can kind of be anything. The lines get a bit blurry here between whether or not it is a cryptid, because it's sort of described as a human with shape-shifting powers, yet it's listed as a cryptid. So it doesn't quite fall under the monster category, but again falls under the sort of creature that has some kind of unsubstantiated claims to it and whatnot. So yeah, in the Navajo language, it's referred to as Yinaldalushi. That was a mouthful, which means it goes on all fours. Other Native American groups, such as the Apache, have their own variations of the Skinwalker. But again, it's one of those things that's present in all kinds of different groups. So they all have some variation of a Skinwalker. Again, is that from sort of cross-cultural, I want to say pollination, but you know what I mean? Like ideas spreading across to the different tribes, or have they each encountered something like this? What's also important to note is it's not just one thing. It's not just the Skinwalker. It's Skinwalkers. There are many of them. It's not like one Nessie, it's a whole bunch of these things
whole
that
kind of
exist,
colony of them.
So not very much is known about them. And this is because the Navajo people are reluctant to kind of go into it. Mostly because in their belief, if you talk about it, the more you talk about it, the more likely it is to appear. So they kind of, especially for some reason to outsiders, they got a big thing about that. But even amongst themselves, if you talk about it, then it kind of brings it into being, which is a bit odd. I don't know any kind of animal that has that power. There's also unlike the Tokoloshi, which although is a mischief maker, it can be kind of helpful and nice if you treat it well.
Yeah.
And the Nyami Nyami, which was vengeful but helpful to its people.
Correct, yeah.
Skinwalker has no redeeming qualities. It is just pure evil.
Okay.
It is a horrible creature of malice and malintent. I've read about a few encounters, mostly arguably creepypastas. And of course, you never know what to believe on the internet. But the encounters typically focus around, you'll get a group of friends that go camping. And one of the friends will disappear, only to return a bit later, but have somewhat unnatural or strange mannerisms. And then the sort of story will progress to eventually this kid starts hunting down the others after being exposed as being a skinwalker.
Oh, wow.
So it kind of transforms into this kid, and a tell is always the way that they speak. So when they speak, it doesn't quite sound natural. Sounds very man-made. They may copy sentences or phrases that they heard being said.
Oh, almost like a parrot.
Yeah, so exactly. So they don't really know the language, but they'll just hear a phrase and kind of just say it back all the time. So that's the tell, and then it will try and infiltrate the group and try and murder all the other kids. Other kind of stories that you'll hear will be maybe two dudes going hiking, and the one will wander away to go take a leak or something, and then the one guy stay behind hears the friend calling out from somewhere else like help or whatever it is, and you're like, huh? Only for the friend to appear again right next to him, also having heard the voice, and then the guy that stayed behind is now not sure which is his real friend.
Oh my word.
What's the skinwalker, what's not. And it always the tales always end in a twist, it ends up not being the friend. And so again, old wives' tales. There's not much, not many more other stories other than those kind of folklore-y tales.
Yeah.
Because again, people are very hush about this. Now it's hard to talk about skinwalkers without talking about Skinwalker Ranch. Skinwalker Ranch is a unique one, as it's not. The name is Skinwalker Ranch, but it's very much not limited to skinwalkers. In fact, I'd argue that most of the stuff listed about it is not about skinwalkers. This ranch is a very real place located in Utah, in America, obviously, coming in at 207 hectares large. So it's not
a huge farm.
Not a huge farm, not a tiny farm. So the legend behind it is that the land used to belong to a tribe of Native Americans known as the Utes. Hence the name Utah. But they had a bit of a falling out with the Navajo because they ended up befriending the American colonists. And they were kind of out the rest of the Native American tribes or the other tribes, like the Navajo and the Apache and stuff, for favors from the Americans, like gifts and blankets and whatever it might be. So the other tribes didn't quite like the Utes. So the Navajo took vengeance by cursing the land, and especially that farmland. Kind of eventually turning it into this paranormal hotspot full of curses and evil, which allegedly led to many paranormal encounters with mostly skinwalkers, but as we said, also aliens and some other strange events, really. So a bit of history about this ranch, right? It never really caught any attention in any form until the family called the Sherman family, bought it in 1994. When they started to experience strange phenomena pretty much from the get-go. They only kind of came out with their news, or not their news, their stories in about 1996. So 2 years later, but they said that it had been happening the whole time. But they just weren't convinced, like maybe they were crazy or maybe there was a normal... I mean, you don't really... Like, we just bought this farm. We don't want to sound like a bunch of crazies. Let's just keep it hush-hush until we're convinced something strange is happening here. But yeah, word got out and they started to share their stories, such as UFOs, cattle mutilations, strange creatures watching them. But yeah, so a few of the more notable alleged experiences are as follows. The day after moving in, they witnessed a strange wolf-like creature grab one of their calves in its mouth and run off. This is the sort of origin to the Skinwalker Ranch part. Because they try to look for information on what this really large, not quite human, not quite wolf creature could be, and all roads pointed to Skinwalker, also based on the sort of history of the farm. So hence it became Skinwalker Ranch. They once found some of their dogs incinerated, i.e. burnt to a crisp, in the middle of nowhere for no reason. Now this farm is kind of away from any other
it's like spontaneous combustion type vibe.
And these things just caught fire. Who knows how the heck that happened?
Yeah.
They found cows emptied out from the inside. So basically cut open with surgical precision and sort of disemboweled and all their meat taken, but there's just their skins left behind.
Wow.
Literally surgical cuts.
Yeah.
So this kind of made them lean towards extraterrestrial. I mean, was it really so good that a doctor had to come and do it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Probably just means it was a nice cut.
Correct.
Yeah, and then they've obviously seen lights starting through the sky. Typical alien behavior, and orbs of light just sort of hanging over the farm. And that's been the most prolific encounters. They've seen that more than anything else. It's been strange alien things. Also encounters where they've woken up to have a being watching over them. Anyway, so eventually they couldn't take it anymore. and they try to put the house on the market and sell it. They obviously thought they weren't really going to have much luck selling it because, I mean, who wants to buy weird paranormal land? I mean, all this is now out in the open. Little did they know that one eccentric multi-millionaire named Robert Bigelow had his eye on the place, and he was really keen to snatch it up. So what he did with this ranch, though, was very interesting. He didn't just buy to live on it. He actually constructed a paranormal research camp on this ranch. His own little private X-Files team, if you will.
No way.
Which is really cool. He put up 24-hour surveillance, walls, armed guards patrolling the area, all sorts. To the point where like conspiracy theorists sort of questioned him to find out whether he was part of the CIA. Because of like all the equipment he had there, and there's radars and all sorts of exceptionally hectic stuff for this little farm. Sort of, I guess, to prove the paranormal is there, especially because I presume I read that he had a meeting with these guys and was shown all the proof that they had. And he's probably not a skeptic. He obviously seems to want to believe, but he sort of saw this as irrefutable proof enough to build a whole research base. But to date, all he's been able to capture are lights in the sky. A couple times, lights in the sky and orbs and things, but no skinwalkers, no physical aliens or anything like that. So yeah, is it a old wives' tale or some legit creepy shapeshifter? Yeah. Or just a really big wolf that the culture's kind of misinterpreted as being a skinwalker? Anyways, that's Skinwalkers. What do you have for us here?
So, in my research for the whole cryptid thing, obviously, as we said in the beginning, there are so many out there. And I don't know, I wanted to find something a little closer to home.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
As we said in a few podcasts ago, or a few episodes ago, there's a lot about our country that we don't know. There's not a lot about our culture and all that we don't know of. And I mean, we're kind of like...
What do you mean? There's a lot we don't know of, or there's a lot we do know?
There's a lot we don't know of.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot I don't know about. Luke apparently knew about this when I brought it up to him. Okay. So, my kind of cryptid is the Grootslang, which for people who don't know...
Big snake.
Stands for big snake in Afrikaans. Thanks, Luke. So, legend has it that lying in a giant limestone sinkhole in Richtersveld, Northern Cape in South Africa, which is literally like left-handmost SA, but right up at the top.
I'm pretty sure I've been there.
Really? It's a shithole.
Yep.
It's like this most desolate...
My dad likes to go 4x4ing and camping in the most vast, emptiest, driest places.
Okay, I can get that. That sounds like fun. But I mean, when I looked at like the whole area, I was going through it on Google Maps just to kind of get an idea of it. It's kind of almost like a Utah desert, pretty much. Yeah. It is a very vast desert, mountainous area, but more like rocky terrain than desert. There's not much sand.
I think the reason we went through is because you have to go through to get to Namibia.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we drove from here to Namibia in a car. We drove through.
The town is tiny. I mean, I'm talking about if this place has more than 50 houses, it's like a lot. This place, it really is small. So in this area, they talk about a fearsome 40-foot long, which is about 12 meters, serpent with the head of an elephant. And it lives in a hole, this limestone sinkhole, which they call the Wonder Hole or the bottomless pit. And it's said to be littered with diamonds and connected to the sea. And I mean, the sea is about 64 kilometers away from it. So it's quite a way. Again, this whole story kind of sounds like one of those legends told to keep people away from it.
Just think about it for a second. A giant snake with an elephant's head. Imagine seeing that charging at you. That is one of the creepiest things I can think 100%.
And I'll put up some photos on my Instagram at Our Topic Podcast. It's so hectic how these guys have depicted this thing. Some depict it with like a full elephant body, but with like a serpent's tail. And some just depict it as the head of the snake has these massive teeth, massive tusks, and elephant ears with like the fangs and the tongue of a snake.
So I've been reading, it's a bit of a tangent, but I've been reading this comic called Jinmen, manga, Japanese comic, and it's got, we'll get into it, but basically these animals start developing humanoid features in the zoo and they escape or whatever, and it's like a horror. It's the creepiest thing. The faces of these, especially this elephant is like the main thing, and this just makes me think of this creepy murderous elephant, especially now with the snake body. That's creepy. Yeah. I don't know why this is scaring me so much. Legitimately, it is a creepy thing.
It is. No,
I don't know if it's meant to be like a chilled animal.
No. Not a chilled animal. I think also because you've been to Richtersveld.
Yeah.
I think once you see it, put yourself in that area with this apparent kind of creature around.
Where elephants have no business being.
No, not at all. Well, they do kind of maybe like not at the fact that this thing eats elephants, but I don't know. I don't believe that part too much. I mean...
Yeah,
don't believe much of it, but I mean, I don't. That doesn't sound.
It's only that part that's wrong. The fact that it could eat elephants. I mean, besides the fact that it has an elephant head. And
yeah. Let me get into the legend. So this is what the people believe there. So according to South African legend and the actual locals there. Now these locals are also very nomadic, like the Navajo people. So because it's such a desolate area, they have to move around a lot, especially with their livestock and all that. And I mean, obviously stories travel as they move and it gets passed down, as most legends do. This obviously was legend with a little bit of encounter, which kind of brought it to life, which gave it that cryptid kind of seal of approval.
Cryptid approved.
Yeah. So
just especially for the Cryptid Round-Up.
So the great and terrible Grootslang was one of the first creatures the gods had ever made. This is now according to the legend of the locals. When man was nothing more than primordial ooze waiting to be formed, the gods created a massive and powerful serpent, larger than an elephant and smarter than any man. The gods realized their error and attempted to correct the great power that they had made. So they split the powers of the Grootslang and dispersed them between two species, the elephant and the snake. But one managed to escape. She managed to be the mother of the whole species of mythological creatures that the gods themselves called a deadly error. So
deadly error.
Yeah. Between them, they've been, I mean, this is obviously other people. That little kind of write-up was from an excerpt taken from a newspaper written in like 1980 something, where they'd actually interviewed a couple of the locals.
You mentioned the locals. Is the legend based on like an Afrikaans legend of people in the area, or is it like a more African? I don't know what.
More African. They speak Afrikaans themselves, but the reason why it's called the Grootslang is because of one guy I'm going to get into now who was a traveler there, and he had also spoken about it, and it just kind of went along with it. So there have been many sightings by the locals of the apparent snake-like creature, but one story kind of stood out that gave them extra credibility to it and kind of kept that whole mysterious side of it alive. And there was a story of Peter Grayson. So the disappearance of Peter
Son of Grey.
Yeah, Son of Grey. The disappearance of Peter Grayson is all legit and happened. But now this is the locals' take on what happened, if that makes sense. So Peter Grayson was an Oxford-educated Englishman who traveled to SA as a businessman and kind of had his eye on the treasures that lay in the area.
Of which there were lots.
Oh, lots. Plenty. I mean, that whole section of coastline, it kind of leads up close to Skeleton Coast, which is said to have a lot of diamonds in that, in the sand. I think a lot of it's actually off limits. You're not allowed going to Skeleton Coast.
As far as I know. You definitely drive through sections of it, so I think...
There are sections that are closed off because they were borderline to mining towns, and a lot of stuff got kind of mixed in. The government's kind of just said, listen, it's
I wonder why it's called Skeleton Coast.
I don't know.
Wait for the next episode of our topic podcast.
So, yeah, I mean, a lot of prospectors came down looking for mining, looking for opportunities. And I mean, they obviously all heard about this limestone sinkhole packed with diamonds. Apparently it was crazy. And
diamonds are definitely a big gem in the area. It's not just a made up, there's diamonds down there. There were legitimately diamonds in the area.
That is 100% true. And I mean, Mr. Grayson kind of came down here with that legend in mind and thinking, I'm going to go back a wealthy man. So before leaving, he read hundreds of old maps and diaries from prospectors who had already been to South Africa. He studied the African languages.
I think prospectors, I think of Yosemite Sam.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly that. He studied up on all the African languages and familiarized himself with the customs and all that, and legends and superstitions of the part of the continent. And his destination was the Orange River, which kind of runs through Richtersveld and all that, which it's one of the main rivers in South Africa, if I remember correctly. And I mean, the area is desolate. Really, you have to honestly want this so bad to kind of go through there, especially at that area, especially at that era. I mean, it's harsh scrub area with wild animals there. And I mean, the natives themselves weren't doing too well. So whatever they saw, they kind of went for.
They're probably all also like dying of drought and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So
dying of drought.
Yeah. So the first night in the camp, a lion killed off one of the members of the expedition.
Oh, shit.
And seriously injured another. A few days later, a third companion died of either a poisonous insect bite or a snake bite. They're not 100% sure. And then a fourth man eventually became really, really sick and begged to be taken back to civilization.
Jeez.
So they weren't doing well. They really weren't. So that only left Mr. Grayson. And since the two remaining members of the expedition volunteered to take the sick and wounded men back to the nearest village for medical treatment, he thought, screw this, I can do this myself. I don't need y'all. I can do this. Which left him alone in the wilderness. That was the last time Mr. Grayson was seen or heard from. Okay. A rescue party was eventually sent out to look for him and returned weeks later with pretty much nothing. Empty camp, which had been abandoned, and no sign of Mr. Grayson. So the Richtersveld had claimed another victim. Some say that it was the Grootslang. And now this is obviously what the locals are saying. They are sticking to it. It was the Grootslang. And that they had killed the adventurer. The native guards pointed out that only a fool would actually go through this venture into the region alone. And even today, guards are reluctant to take expeditions to that cavern.
Yeah.
So they're scared of this. Like they're not playing games. Only one man apparently has been tough enough to actually go into this cavern. His name was Travis. Super average. I really thought I was going to get some like...
Only one man has done this. Hey, it's Travis.
He was one of the only men to apparently have explored this hole and lived. And according to one account, he had dropped his flashlight into the pit and pretty much had to crawl his way back in pure darkness.
Oh, shit.
And it wasn't great for him.
Have you watched The Descent?
The Descent. Sounds very familiar.
Horror movie where basically a bunch of hackers or whatever, cave explorers, spelunkers, I think they're called.
Spelunkers.
Got stuck in the cave. And there's weird creatures and stuff. Want them down. But there's like, it plays on a lot of the claustrophobia sort of thing. Like this chick getting like stuck in a thing and can't move and freaky. And also they start running out of light.
Okay.
And they lose their torches and they got to navigate in darkness. It's the creepiest thing, actually.
I don't know why, but that sounds great and I really want to watch it.
Well, that reminds me of this. Crawling back through the darkness through a cavern.
Yeah, I think that's intense. A really, really hectic fear of mine.
Yeah, 100%.
Pitch black, no idea. I mean, you remember that story of those kids trapped in that mine? I think it was Thailand. That
Elon Musk saved the day.
Yeah, boring really, company. That over there. Was, I mean, everyone knows about that. That was that. Yeah. Those school kids at soccer team. Worst thing ever. Really, really horrible.
Shit, teacher. What's the soccer team doing? Whatever.
It was a
excursion.
Not an excursion. It was like a rite of passage. Apparently, every one of them had done it. Every team before them had done it. Oh, wow. So they were like, no, we're going to screw monsoon season. We don't care about that. We're just going to go ahead with this. So back to the snake of the land. Some travelers...
Snake of the land.
I really don't feel like saying Grootslang anymore.
Grootslang. It's a tough one.
It is a tough one, especially in South Africa. Yeah. Some travelers claim to have seen it. One man told a South African newspaper that he had sighted such a beast once, describing it as a monstrous snake more than 50 feet long. Another said that he saw two of the creatures, but they had killed one with his high caliber rifle. Sounds exactly like a South African.
Yeah. You should have seen the freaking thing.
That's such a butt like.
Hey, butt, I shot this thing, bro. At an elephant's head, can you believe?
Going Cape Coloured.
Yeah, sorry.
South Africa is full of so many like random things. Luke just
and
went
I'm
through
not good at
97.
accents. I just merge them all together.
That was great though, Luke. So yeah, a lot of the witnesses say that the length of it is between 40 and 50 foot.
What will meet? No, feet. Yeah.
Feet, yeah. Meters around about 12,
Okay.
13, 14, around there. And they say that it's about 3 foot wide and tracks along the Orange River.
Okay.
Apparently, prospectors had followed it.
How long is an
once.
anaconda?
Oh, a lot longer than that.
It's like 25 or something.
Yeah. But I'll get to that now. It's pretty much what people say, that
Okay.
it's just a big snake. It's not an anaconda, but I mean, yeah. So,
But with an elephant's head, can I?
but again, when you kind of like
Yeah.
confronted by something that's bigger than you or something you've never seen, your brain just kind of like,
Because elephant head.
yeah. Or I
No,
mean,
it doesn't. It's because big snake.
if somebody sees like a Cape Cobra or like whatever, a massive one, I mean,
Yeah.
elephant head, I don't know, fangs,
I
tusks.
guess like the ears
Yes.
of the cobra's
Yeah,
neck.
I mean,
Maybe.
who knows? So the natives kind of say that it's a spirit snake whose job is to guard the cavern for its treasure from treasure hunters, and anyone unlucky enough to encounter the creature is instantly overcome by a sense of evil. So definitely not like a nice like yummy yummy type vibe snake at all. According to Dr. Gunther Beck, a wildlife official in the Richterveld region.
I love that name, dude.
I know, it's so great. He says that it's probably just a python. Pythons grow up to 25 feet long, and it's not rare for there to be one up to like 32 foot or whatever.
And also, people like to extrapolate what they see and
Of course.
exaggerate their findings.
So,
It was like 40 feet, bro.
yeah, who knows? But again, seen up close, a monster can seem alarmingly different from what you would kind of actually see. Same goes for, I think, 90% of cryptids. It's something you kind of see and you're like, whoa, that's definitely not something normal. When it actually is, you just never seen it in that capacity. Whatever. Local natives still say that the creature exists and it guards the diamonds. So you ain't changing their perspective on that at all.
Why would you? And it's probably a massive tourist attraction now.
Of course. I don't know. I thought it was. There's like 4 photos of the area on Google, and it's just of a portion of the Orange River and the mountains. There's nothing there.
Never mind then.
Please do yourself a favor. Richterveld, Northern
Spell
Cape.
it.
Richtersveld.
Richters.
Word. Richtersveld. And go look at how desolate that area is. I mean,
Yeah.
it again kind of comes across as like the whole Hills of Ours, where you just hear things because of where you are
Vast
and
emptiness.
Yeah, and I mean that place apparently gets, at worst, it's been 53 degrees Celsius during the day. It's there's never rain there. Apparently, it's kind of the same as Namibia in the sense of there's not much rain. Same climate, not much rain, but like it gets so cold at night that the dew in the morning is enough for the succulents and the small animals to live and to kind of grow in that, because there's no other water source. I mean, you got the Orange River, which is tracking through one area of it, and that's it.
Yeah.
So quite hectic, but
So
still
powerful days.
Grootslang. I'll put up pictures. Go check it out. I'll put up the both of the suspected views. The actual elephant body. I saw one picture where it looked like an elephant and a crocodile merged together. I don't believe it's kind of that. I think it's more along the lines of, I don't know, just Cape Cobra or a cobra, King Cobra, whatever
Probably
you call
is,
it. With exaggerated features.
Explanation for
Yeah,
these.
that's what I think.
What one sort of theory I just thought of right now as you were talking was, what if this Grayson? Okay, this was until you said he never returned. But I was thinking, what if Grayson made this legend because he legitimately found a good diamond place and he didn't want anybody else to see this stuff? He's like, oh, there's this massive snake there, no one go there, you know. Meanwhile, it's all mine.
Yeah, well, I mean,
until then, he didn't return. And that kind of...
Well, it doesn't mean he didn't go to Namibia.
No, didn't actually get some diamonds and bugger off.
Yeah, because I mean, Namibia is very close to that. I mean, it's actually probably closer to Namibia than it is to, I mean, Cape Town, Joburg and all of that. Probably more Joburg. Actually, no, I lie. Probably more close to Cape Town because it's...
Is it close to Durban?
No, opposite side. The Durban's Mozambique area. This is like past Springbok.
I literally drove to Namibia and I'm on the complete opposite side of the country.
Luke's geography.
Oh my God. Anyway.
Yeah, so this weekend we went away and Luke got lost and couldn't find us and we were a couple of meters away from him. Just to explain.
And the jet got lost.
We phoned like 5 people to find us. It was great.
Answer your phones, damn it. 21st century.
We were at the beach.
And that's all we have for you guys today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us on another wild ride with your hosts at the Odd Topic Podcast Show. You can, I don't know why I had a show. We're not a show. You can like and follow and subscribe and all the good stuff on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Send us a message either in the comments or a DM or email us at
community@oddtopicpodcast.com.
Yeah, so do that. Please subscribe, show some support, tell your friends about us. If you hate what we're doing, let us know. Constructive feedback is always welcome. Just be nice about it.
And if you love what we're doing, tell us too.
Yeah, big time. We really want to hear that one. Forget what I said previously. Thanks, cheers.
Bye.